All right, I'm here, and I love all the faces that I can recognize here. That's awesome. And welcome to my talk about travel tech in the age of over-tourism. I'm really excited about being here today, and I feel like in the mood for sharing something with you. Someone would call it music, someone would call it noise, but if you can just try. This sound is actually so well connected to the fact that we have over-tourism in a lot of cities, and a lot of people are connected to that sound. It's the sound of noise, it's the sound of people, congestion, everything related to it. And that sound is actually illegal in Venice. You can get banned from taking your bag through the streets there. And that sound is something that is disturbing the local communities in these cities. So we're looking at an age now where things have changed. We have an age where cities like, Barcelona is experiencing 20 million international arrivals to a city where only 1.5 million people live. Think about that. It's where we are now. People are restricting access to the cities. That one, yes. Have anyone been to the Anne Frank Museum in Amsterdam? All right, you're really lucky then, because when I was there, I had to book 2 months ahead of time to actually get access to them. And I mean, think about all the disappointed travelers coming to a city, anticipating they can go to a museum, but they can't access it. The canal tours around Amsterdam has 5 million people going on them. But think about it, there's only 850,000 people living in the city. A lot of you know Nyhavn. A lot of you are actually from Copenhagen. But even though you know Nyhavn and you live here, you would probably not go there. And it's probably because you would get hit by a traveler driving right in front of you on a bike or anything related to that. But think about if we had like the Little Mermaid centered in the center of Copenhagen, what that will cause of traffic. Luckily, we actually have it a little bit outside Copenhagen. We actually have our office just next to it, and we're just looking daily at the buses driving in every day. People walking out of the bus, walking over to the Little Mermaid, taking a picture, walking into the bus again, driving, continuing. That's what we're looking at. 10 years ago, this number has grown in 10 years 75% in Copenhagen. 75%. And over the next 10 years, we'll see even more people coming. 105 areas around Europe is defined as experiencing over-tourism. In the 1960s, we had 25 million international trips. Now we have more than 1 billion. And these are international trips. We're not even accounting the domestic traffic. But what is this? What role does travel tech actually play in this? I love travel. I love going new places. I love meeting new people. I love meeting new cultures. And I think that being part of travel tech, I feel a part of responsibility. For Luggage Hero, we have actually stored more than 1 million hours of baggage storage. And for one thing, that's a tiny thing, we are actually distributing a lot of our travelers out to the areas where there are not as many people. So it means that whenever we go into a new city, we actually have multiple locations where travel can go, but we try and encourage them to go out in the areas where they haven't been before. So our models that we're working on at this moment is trying to encourage people to move out and see new things in the city instead of always being in the center. That's something that we're trying to do. Another thing that we see an opportunity is actually driving revenue to local businesses. Think about it. Every time you go to a new city, you probably find yourself in a Starbucks, in a McDonald's, in a 7-Eleven, in a KFC, something like that. And if you don't find yourself in one, you will for sure be able to see one from every corner you're at. And all the local businesses around these major cities are really struggling. So what we are doing, we are actually sharing our revenue with a lot of these places, so we can actually have a more sustainable local environment about being a local business. But we are not the only one looking into solutions about over-tourism. In Amsterdam, when I visited there, I had an app on my phone, and the app was telling me in real time what kind of locations was overflooded at this time. So it was actually telling me not to go to that museum, not to go to that event, not to go over here, and was actually kind of nudging me to go to new paths. And that's actually one of the few technology steps that we've seen within over-tourism, that we are nudging people to do new stuff. So imagine booking a flight to Amsterdam. And when you're booking it, the OTA, the online travel agency that you're booking with, that could be like Expedia, was actually telling you that on the dates that you anticipate to arrive to a destination, these museums will be full. They'll be out of capacity. So you can either select another date, or you can go there anyway, but don't anticipate to be able to come there. So that's also a way that travel tech can actually help. Another thing that Visit Scotland has done is actually they have built a VR experience on a lot of the locations that are mostly visited by travelers. So instead of going to a museum where you have all these people, you can actually go there alone in the VR. I think we'll see much more in that in the future. Back to Copenhagen. We are receiving about 1 million visitors from cruise ships. Most of the cities that are experiencing over-tourism are in near proximity to a nearby port. That means that a lot of congestion is happening, and a lot of disturbance and traffic and pollution is happening because of that. Alone in Copenhagen, we have 158 cruises departing and getting back to the same port. That means that people from all over the world are flying in to Copenhagen Airport, going on a taxi, going on a bus, or anything related to that, out to the port, going on the ship, going around the Baltics, and coming back, and going out again with all their bags, perhaps going straight to the airport, where they have a flight late in the evening, or they're staying a few days in the city. That exact problem is a big problem for the authorities in the city. One thing is the pollution. The other thing is the congestion. Think about how many cars, think about how many traffic-related problems you are experiencing when you can't fit people into more than one cab, even though they're just two people. And that's because they have one thing in common, all these travelers. They're bringing a big piece of luggage, and even someone is bringing two. So we have actually been talking to the official port here in Copenhagen. I'm trying to get this one here. About a solution to separate passengers from their luggage. Because as soon as you can separate people from the luggage, you can have people being much more mobile, and they can go on a scooter, they can go on a bike into the city, or they can take a cab but be multiple people, or even a bus, or even walk. So this is a big opportunity for a startup like ours to actually look into over-tourism and how we can actually see opportunities instead of limitations. So I hope that this talk is actually something that will encourage a lot of people to think about the huge opportunity that we have just in our hands now to make mass tourism to a good thing. Because we all want to go out and see the world. We just need to be doing it in a much more sustainable way. Thank you very much. Yeah, anyone, some questions?
Yes, hi. How do you share with the local businesses? What is the revenue? How do you share revenue with the local businesses?
So for every piece of luggage that are stored in a local shop, we do a revenue split with them. But that's not the most important thing for most of these shops. It's actually to drive foot traffic. Some of these shops can't afford the best locations in the city, so they'll just like in one block away from the main traffic hub. And it's like 300 or 400 meters to that location, but it's more kind of hidden. They can't really afford the same locations as Starbucks or anything like that. So the revenue is actually what I say is the small part. The potential is so much higher for driving that foot traffic, and travelers are especially interesting to have in local shops because they're the ones spending the most money.
Can you comment maybe on trends within the tourism industry in Copenhagen, how it is shifting? What are the changes? What did the tourists like to do maybe 5 years ago? What are they more into now?
To be honest, I mean, we have our office just looking out at the Little Mermaid, and I know I have not personally ever been to Paris, but my colleagues have been, and it seems like the Eiffel Tower is, for instance, in Paris, still the big magnet. So I think we have some things in the cities that we all want to go to and visit, and that ties back to what I was saying about before about not disappointing people. So perhaps they should actually have a level of expectation for what they can actually go out and see. From my view, from my perspective, we haven't seen much development on that part, but I'm still waiting for it.
Hi. So I wanted to ask you a question because I was very surprised to hear about Venice and about actually tourists being banned because they carry their luggage and all this problem. So, well, first of all, is Luggage Hero currently in Venice, and is it planning to do something similar in like other city? There are other risks like in a city like Venice with all this over-tourism.
I think it's a very unique case for Venice, and I don't know how they're actually going around and doing something about it, but we are in Venice. We are in 30 cities around the world at this point. We'll be in 39 in the end of this year. But I mean, luggage struggles is a big part for travel, and it's something that it's not really for us about the luggage struggles or the baggage or anything. It's about making people belong, and I think that people don't feel comfortable about walking around in a city as Venice because it's banned to go with your luggage. But in a city like Barcelona or in any other city, you don't want to go around and carry your stuff and be not feeling like a stranger. So feeling like you can belong in a city is our main objective, and I think we are ahead of that. But we still have a lot of work to do.
There are two questions. One is that, as I understand, most passengers on cruise ships have a deal with all-inclusive. which means that they do not really want to spend money in the city they visit because they get it for free back on the cruise ship. And how to balance that? I mean, the costs that for the tourist, and how to get the revenue back. The other thing is that I understand that the cruise ships are the largest polluter of cities, especially NOx, nitrooxygen, that cause cancer, asthma, and such. And the solution to that is to offer the cruise ships electricity, landstrøm. So, but that is a political problem. The solutions are there. It's beneficial because the ships can buy electricity in Copenhagen instead of diesel in another country and such.
Yeah, and for that last part, I know that Copenhagen port are actually in the work of developing electricity to these ships, because one of the main problems about these ships are that they are actually full on, even though there's no passengers on it for a full day, it's just standing there and polluting all day. So giving them electricity would actually help on reducing that pollution, definitely, and that's something that the Copenhagen port is working on. But it's very much political driven, where I see there's a lot of startups opportunities within this field instead. And for your first question about the revenue and the anticipation, I mean, I think that for all, everyone sees that people, when they go on holiday, they spend the most money because they're on holiday and they want to enjoy themselves. And I mean, obviously you have a lot of all-inclusive things, but as soon as you get people into a location, they're not really hesitant about spending money. Not from our belief. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you, Jannik. Will you be around to answering questions outside of the stage?
Sure.
Yes.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.